So what happened this week in court was Judge Toll, who had been brought in to decide whether he should get a new trial or not, decided he's not getting one. And it was interesting because she set a very high bar for the defense to meet in order to get a new trial. She could have said, you just have to prove the court clerk interfered with the jurors. And if she had set that as the standard, they probably would have gotten a new trial. Or she could have said, no, the standard is interference plus it mattered. Plus the jurors say, you know what, it actually did influence our verdict. And she decided to go with that much tougher standard. And still, the defense did a pretty good job of meeting it. I mean, you tell me, and she still said, nope, because things unfolded in a way on the stand that really kind of persuaded her it wasn't quite enough. But were you stunned when Juror Z took the stand and testified, you know what? The court clerk did kind of say some things to me, and yeah, I did feel influenced.
Wow, I'm really impressed that you have kept up with that closely. Your analysis is impressive. But hear me out on this, because I was not surprised when Juror Z testified. She did say the magic word, so to speak, that, hey, what the clerk told me affected my verdict directly. But the defense went further, though. They then introduced her affidavit in which she said that the verdict was the product of being coerced by other jurors, not by information by the clerk. And Justice Toll, she's a very experienced judge and also a trial judge and has lots of legal experience. She then asked the magic question at that point. And the question was this: is what you just said, that you were pressured by other jurors, more accurately reflect what you mean to say, in effect? And she said yes. Questioning stopped. And so I think Justice Toll has a really good record to be upheld on appeal, regardless of whatever standard our Supreme Court applies in this case. Now, there is some dispute as to what the standard ought to be, but I thought I sat there for the entire day, and when you sat through the testimony and heard it firsthand, I do think that the record is good for Justice Toll to be upheld on appeal.
Here's Justice Toll explaining why, notwithstanding the juror's testimony, that the court did say something to her, the clerk did say something to her that made her feel like, quote, he was already guilty before a verdict. The judge was going to say he doesn't get a new trial. Here it is in SOT 10. Take a listen.
I simply do not believe that the authority of our South Carolina Supreme Court requires a new trial in a very lengthy trial such as this on the strength of some fleeting and foolish comments by a publicity-influenced clerk of court. This is a matter within the discretion of the trial judge, and I am the trial judge at this moment. I do not feel that I abuse my discretion when I find the defendant's motion for a new trial on the factual record before me must be denied, and it is so ordered.
So, Charlie, one of the things that people who are Johnny-come-latelys to the case may not appreciate is truly the amount of evidence against Alex Murdaugh. And it sounds like Judge Toll, though she wasn't the one who tried the case, was very well versed in the mountains of proof against this guy.
Well said. A Himalayan mountain of evidence. I sat in that trial for 6 straight weeks, and Alex Murdaugh would have to be the most unluckiest man in the universe not to have committed these murders. The evidence just came rolling in day after day after day, and he himself didn't help himself when he testified. So you're right. I think the backdrop to this, and Justice Toll did say that she read the entire record. And what also needs to be said is, of course, we had that one juror, Juror Z, that I think was the best defense witness. But there were 10 other jurors that testified on Monday, and one had testified on Friday. And they were very clear in that their verdict was the product of only the evidence in court and nothing extraneous that the clerk may or may not have said. So it's a really strong case for the for the prosecution. And I do think, again, they're going to do their best to get this reversed on appeal. And they may have another issue relative to the admission of financial crimes. But on appeal, I do think the record favors the prosecution, and I do expect the case to be affirmed.
Dick Harpootlian was one of the lawyers representing Alex Murdaugh, and he got his chance to cross-examine court clerk Becky Hill. It was interesting because I listened to you guys on this podcast talk about Becky Hill. You've been around the South Carolina court system your adult life, and people seem to really like this woman. She was, warm, sounds like a warm Southern lady who is, a charmer. And you correct me if I'm wrong, I heard some skepticism on the part of you and your colleagues when these allegations are first made that she may have interfered with the jury. And then the more you got to look at what she was alleged to have done and the investigations into her, allegedly working with her son, who was also employed by the court to spy on other court employees who may have been investigating her. And then, the cross-examination that the judge did of her and of Harpootlian, you guys realize, I sensed a change in you, Charlie. Like, whoa, okay, maybe we misjudged Becky Hill.
Well said. I didn't know Becky Hill before the trial started, but having been there for 6 straight weeks, and she was really courteous, spent lots of time with her. I remember one lunch I had with her, which was delightful. And you just thought that she ran a really good courtroom and did a really good job. The case, which was a massive case for the small southern county, was just so well run. I just had the highest respect for her. But I must say, as the book came out, the plagiarism allegations, and the cross-examination by the defense and by Justice Toll in particular, her credibility was shot. And you just have to think that some things that untoward went on, and we'll see what the future holds for her. I do think she could be the subject of some really serious criminal investigations now in light of her testimony. We had some investigations going on already. It's been a disappointment because, like you say, I did think the highest of her, and I do think she's really basically a nice lady at heart. But I think Justice Toll said it well when she said that the siren call of publicity caused her to do some things that went on, and I wish her the best going forward. But I do think that the issues that have been raised are really serious.
Siren call of celebrity lured Becky Hill in. She was attracted by it. She wanted to write a book, judge, about the trial, and made that clear. Here's a little of, I'll start with Justice Toll grilling Becky Hill on how she wanted a guilty verdict. Again, this woman is accused of interfering with the case, of going and saying to the jurors before they had deliberated, make sure you watch him and don't be fooled by the evidence presented by Alex Murdaugh and his lawyers. Pay attention, like totally inappropriate if said. She denies it, but the judge, Justice Toll, knew that Becky Hill was not a truth teller. Take a listen to Stop 13.
You wanted a guilty verdict because it would increase the sales of the book. Did you ever say that in an email or verbally or in any other way?
No, ma'am, I did not. It didn't matter to me if it was guilty, not guilty, or a mistrial.
Well, in your book, you suggest that the guilty verdict was what you wanted, and you were fearful that a guilty verdict would not be rendered. You say that a lot about your feeling about wanting a guilty verdict, do you not?
I do agree that that is said in the book.
Well, this is that you were describing a time way before the verdict was rendered when you wrote about those things in the book. Isn't that correct?
It is, yes.
And you even have something where you say your eyes met with jurors and others at Moselle, and y'all had an understanding, unspoken, that he was guilty. You said that in the book, did you not?
I did say that in the book.
Kudos to Justice Toll. Can I ask you, Charlie, zoom out? Here's this, she seems so nice. You're a lawyer, so you got to have a level of skepticism about you just as a natural person. I can relate. She seems like such a nice lady. Alex Murdaugh, same. He was beloved. These guys were kings of South Carolina. And what we've learned over the past year plus, as we've watched this trial go, is be careful. Be careful, judging these books by their covers, because even though they can sweeten it up with a smile and the Southern drawl, which I think we all kind of love as Americans, dig more. Pay attention to the facts and not so much the affect, because you could be getting misled.
A very astute point. I didn't know Alex Murdaugh, but I knew his dad well. I knew his grandfather well. And so any thought that he would be involved in any criminal conduct, it wouldn't occur to me that that could have occurred. Same with Becky Hill. Again, I'm not saying she's guilty of anything, that she's presumed innocent and hasn't been found guilty of any crimes. But when you watched her testify very directly that she didn't have any motivation for the book, guilty verdict or not. And then she said it was her friend, the clerk of Barnwell County, then testified just shortly thereafter was the exact opposite. It was really disappointing, and I do think that you're right. You can't judge a book by its cover. It's necessary to look beyond that, particularly when it comes to important matters.
Let's discuss a crucial aspect of your financial health, your credit report. It's time to face a hard truth. Your credit report could be suffering due to unfounded, reputation-damaging claims. These are the kind of claims that simply won't hold up under rigorous scrutiny. And that's where Lexington Law Firm comes into play. For less than $100, Lexington Law champions your cause, using a comprehensive arsenal of consumer protection laws to fight for your best credit report. Lexington Law is fully equipped to challenge those exploitative creditors and the aggressive, annoying debt collectors who obstruct your financial path. Go and visit lexingtonlaw.com for a complimentary credit assessment. Let their experts place your credit under the microscope, working for you, ensuring that it reflects your true financial story. Remember to mention Megyn Kelly referred you. And again, that's lexingtonlaw.com. Empower yourself with the right team on your side. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.